Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Book Club. Got a bit of a change of scenery today and I'm having to hold the camera because we're having stuff done on the library and can't set up the usual filming. So we're going to get straight to it anyway, and this week we're talking about a very interesting novel called The Dark Web by Jamie Bartlett. It's a bit of a departure from what we'd normally talk about, but it's a very interesting novel and I think you'll enjoy it. So here we go. The internet comes in many shapes and sizes. Some you can see, some you can't. The parts that are searchable on Google and other search engines are what we call the surface web. That's the bit that, while not exactly safe per se, is usually regarded as the internet proper by the average user. Jamie Bartlett's The Dark Net explores the other parts of the internet, the parts you can't see on Google, which have collectively come to be known as the dark net, the deep web, or the dark web. In this series of in-depth discussions about the people who use the dark web and their effects on modern life, Bartlett pulls back the covers on some very disturbing things. The book opens with a relatively light topic, although its ultimate effects are shown with the same level of seriousness as he approaches each subject on his radar. Here, he takes a look at online trolling, starting with some relatively simple and arguably funny larks that bored internet users have engaged in. With those out of the way, he quickly moves on to far more serious accounts of online bullying and pushing people to commit suicide. He confronts several trolls with both their own actions and the actions of others, giving an insight into the minds of those who troll on the internet. It's really quite fascinating. Bartlett takes this method of investigation and interview for each topic he covers. Sometimes the results are genuinely insightful and informative, but in others it's stomach-churningly awful. In his chapter on internet pedophilia, the statistics for its exponential rise are shocking. The numbers of images discovered by various police agencies around the world are staggering, and the excuses for engaging in this disgusting behavior from the pedophiles Bartlett interviews are shocking. Some genuinely claim to have stumbled upon the images accidentally, and to a certain extent that I can believe, but then they go on to talk about how after finding them, they discovered they wanted more. Apparently, if you're determined to find the stuff, it's quite easy to do so on the dark web. It should be noted, however, that the dark web isn't exactly difficult to find. You've probably used it today without thinking about it. Facebook is on the dark web because it can't be searched by Google. Several chapters of this book keep coming back to Facebook. It's used by pedophiles to gain images of children and to pass them on to one another. It's used by extremists to get in touch with one another and to build new campaigns. That's where the notorious right-wing extremist group Britain First comes from. And I know from personal experience that there are similar left-wing extremist groups too, although this book does not cover those. The chapter on internet racism is a particularly good example of Bartlett's investigative style. Here he presents the facts in a level-headed manner, not judging, but instead laying out all the horrible details and letting you judge for yourself. His interviews are candid and presented in a similarly non-judgmental style. In essence, the interviewee damns themselves. Despite that, you do get a sense of the person underneath, and despite the horrible behavior that many of the interviewees have engaged in, you do end up seeing that they are human beings underneath it all. Of all the chapters, I found the one on cryptography and the struggles between libertarian and anarchist ideals to be the most interesting. The two political ideologies are quite separate from one another, but they keep intertwining and feeding off each other in order to create new and highly sought-after technologies. The encryption you use to log into your bank via the internet, or to log into Facebook, or to check your emails, all developed from technologies discussed in this chapter. So it's very interesting to get an idea of what the people who developed that software were thinking when they did it. The end users are often very different to what was intended. In the end, the dark net is something of a mixed bag. It ranges from being humorous in places to being gut-wrenchingly horrible in others. Not in terms of writing quality, because the writing is great throughout, but in terms of subject matter. That's par for the course when discussing the dark web, so it should come as no surprise. It's just worth remembering that when you delve into the book. Okay, there we are. It's one of those books where it's like a collection of essays on several interconnected topics, and it was fascinating. I read it in, I think it was 3 days over the course of an election, so you can imagine that I didn't have a huge amount of time. So that's a good way of seeing just how into it you can get with this book. It's fascinating. Some of the topics aren't exactly the type of thing that you would consider light reading, but nevertheless, it's a very good book, and I can't recommend it highly enough. But anyway, that's all we got time for this week. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked this. And if you did, remember to click the like button, share it with your friends so that they'll know a good book when they see it, and do subscribe for future videos because we'll be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Zoe Kirk-Robinson. You've been watching the Monday Book Club on ZJKR, and I'll see you next time.